Welcome to the first edition of Atlassa's podcast. We are a data-driven real estate brokerage based in California, and we operate in Los Angeles and San Francisco Bay Area. And we are here to inform you about different trends in the real estate market based around macroeconomic or natural hazard events. Our first topic is wildfires and how they affect real estate. The first article that I'd like to start talking about is a New York Times article that specifically talks about wildfires and how they pertain to insurance. So, as you might all know, there have been quite a number of fires all around California, and the immediate impact of these fires, beyond the devastation it's caused in California around different communities, was how the insurance market is pretty much collapsing. So let's quickly read through this article and I'll give you a better sense of what's happening. Years of megafires have caused huge losses for insurance companies, a problem so severe that last year California temporarily banned insurers from canceling policies on some 800,000 homes in or near risky parts of the state. However, that ban is about to expire and can't be renewed, and a recent plan to deal with the problem fell apart in a clash between insurers and consumer advocates. No, what we need to know here is an insurance company collects premiums annually. And if your house burns down, if you have wildfire insurance, after a deductible, the insurance company will cover most of the wildfire's cost. Now, what's the problem with this current ecosystem? It's that 5 out of the 20 largest California wildfires, in fact, the top 5 out of the top 6 wildfires happened in August and September 2020. Now, there are various reasons for this. The two biggest reasons are global warming, which we all know global temperatures are rising, and because of that, it's easier for massive wildfires to be ignited. And then the other reason is an article that I will talk about right after this. But what this graph essentially tells us is some of the largest wildfires have been happening of late. 2018 had a massive fire in Mendocino Complex. 2017 had a Thomas fire. What we do see as a growing trend are wildfires that are getting worse year over year. And one thing that is becoming abundantly clear is that there is no real immediate tangible solution that has been proposed by the California government. What that means is that these fires will continue happening next year, the year after, and then the year after. And if you're a homeowner and you own $1 million asset, a $2 million asset, a $5 million asset, charting the future as it pertains to wildfires is crucially important, and we'll discuss what you need to do going forward. Now let's quickly look at the current state of the air quality in California. As you can see, North Bay is a mess. Currently there are wildfires raging in Sonoma, and if we look at a fire map, we do see that most of the areas surrounding the North Bay have been affected. So the Santa Rosa area currently has multiple fires. Marin has one. Santa Cruz had a pretty massive fire, and the area north of Napa had fires. And as we all know, this has been ravaging most of California, all the way down from San Luis Obispo, all the way down to Los Angeles. So this is a trend that's here to stay, and it pretty much affects a large swath of land. It is not a micro trend, it is a macro trend. And now let's quickly talk about an article that sort of explains what this means and why it's happening. And this article is from ProPublica, an investigative journal. And the title of the article is "They Know How to Prevent Megafires. Why Won't Anybody Listen?" So the thesis of this article is that historically, before the last 100 years, California used to burn quite a large swath of land by itself because of lightning strikes, etc. But as soon as we brought civilization to California and built an infrastructure, we reduced the quantity of fires that happened on an annual basis in California. And this has caused the buildup of what's called fire fuel, which is the debris that is left from the forest existing without local fires. What that is are leaves or branches or dead trees that accumulate over time, that dry up on the floor of the forest, and that can burn when there's even a small incident. Let me quickly read this for you guys. A 6-word California fire ecology primer. The state is in the hole. 70-word primer. We dug ourselves into a deep, dangerous fuel imbalance due to one simple fact. We live in a Mediterranean climate that's designed to burn, and we've prevented it from burning anywhere close to enough for well over 100 years. Now, climate change has made it hotter and drier than ever before, and the fire we've been forestalling is going to happen fast, whether we plan for it or not. Mega fires like the ones that have ripped us this week through 1 million acres so far will continue to erupt until we've flared off our stockpiled fuels. No way around that. When I reached Malcolm North, a research ecologist with the U.S. Forest Service who is based in Mammoth, California, and asked if there was any meaningful scientific dissent to the idea of what we need that we need to do more controlled burning, he said, none that I know of. What does this mean? It means that California needs to do more controlled burns. We've been tracking this from our company, Gavin Newsom and Donald Trump, both of the polarized political role models for the left and the right in the United States, have both said we need more planned fires. It might happen. There is no strong indication that that will happen quickly enough to prevent a fire in 2021 and 2022 and 2023. If there's any sort of large-scale policy update, we'll let you know. But currently, it's abundantly clear that we're going to have more and more fires going forward. Now, what does this mean to you as a homeowner? So let's quickly go through an email from my managing broker and talk about what this means to you as a homeowner. So because of wildfires, insurance rates across the state will almost certainly be going up. Remind your buyers to check with their insurance carrier or insurance broker to confirm that A, the carrier will insure a policy in the area for that particular property, and B, that the buyer will be able to afford any coverage. Now, there's a very important part of this that you should do as a home buyer, and that is to employ some common sense. If a property is in a forest area, or if a property is in an area with a lot of bushes, a lot of dry bushes, regardless of whether an insurer will insure it or not, that property is likely going to be at a risk of wildfire. The first thing to know about wildfires is that the coverage areas and what insurance companies consider high-risk areas in California are at flux. They're constantly changing. Just because a property right now is not in what is designated as a wildfire zone, that doesn't mean that the property might be designated in a wildfire zone. And what that means is your insurance can be $3,000 a year right now. In 4 years, when the fires get worse, it could be $30,000 a year. And that devastates a property's value, right? Because if you think about it, it's an extreme example, but there are $30,000 policies right now. Let's take that as an example. A $30,000 policy means you'll be paying over $2,000 a month just for the wildfire insurance to be able to secure your home. Now, the best data focused analogy that we can make here is if you were to compare a condo with a low, cheap monthly HOA fee, like a $300 a month fee, versus an HOA that's more than $2,000, right? Which condo is going to be more expensive? Obviously, the condo with the lower HOA fee. Buyers are very reticent about buying properties with high HOA fees. And if a property is in an area that might burn eventually, or that might be at risk of burning eventually, you should proceed with extreme caution. Now, this is a text that my insurance broker sent me. Essentially, he's saying that the insurance landscape is changing, insurance rates are going up substantially, and sometimes getting dropped altogether. So it says, honestly, Deniz, it's getting tougher every month. Basically, anything with foliage that can burn within 100 feet is becoming a target. Since most of the fire mapping is done by address, not just zip code, you can always feel free to email me an address to check out, and we could see our first tier carriers will accept it. If they don't, insurance is nearly always available somewhere, but at a much higher cost. So that could be $10,000, $20,000, $30,000. It can go up to astronomical numbers if some of the more well-known insurance carriers do not cover it. What are those well-known insurance carriers? Allstate, Farmers, etc. All of the communities you mentioned. So in North Bay, Hillsborough, Woodside, Santa Cruz, the areas in Los Gatos and Saratoga that have a lot of forests, parts of Marin and Sonoma, which is on fire, are all affected. And also Monterey and most of the Gold Country and the Tahoe area are affected. Now, if you're a home buyer and you're looking at properties, yes, you should talk to an insurance broker when you're assessing that property, but just because that insurance carrier tells you that they will cover you for a cheap cost doesn't mean you should buy it. Maybe in a year or 2 years, it might be designated a wildfire zone, and you suddenly have the issue of dealing with an insurance cost that went up all the way from $2,000 to $15,000, right? So suddenly you have this huge cost, and it will scare off every buyer if you try to sell your house. Now, I pulled some examples from different areas in North Bay that sold recently. I'm obfuscating the addresses, obviously, to protect the privacy of the owners. But this is a property in Oakland Hills. It's beautiful, right? Has a beautiful deck, beautiful lush tree landscape. This is in a somewhat wildfire risk zone. Historically, this house would not have any issues getting wildfire insurance. Right now, it likely will have issues, and in the future, these issues will get worse and worse over time, and either the insurance will get dropped or the insurance premium will skyrocket. The California government protects home buyers to a certain extent. They guarantee insurance, but that doesn't mean that insurance will be cheap. Here's another property in Woodside. Woodside is a very high-end area in the South Bay of Silicon Valley, but it has a lot of foresty areas, and this area is being reassessed by a lot of insurers right now. Same with Hillsborough, same with Los Gatos, and same with Saratoga and Silicon Valley. And then this is what I meant by an area with a lot of bushes. So you see a lot of dry bushes here. So if you see a house in a very, expansive bush environment, even if your insurance broker tells you it's fine, you should still proceed with caution. Maybe you might want to buy in a slightly more suburban area than this. And the future potential of these fires getting worse should be top of mind when you're a buyer. And what the article was referring to as forest fuel is a good example. So you see all these leaves, all these branches that have dried up on the floor. So if you light a match and throw it in, this forest could burn, right? And what a plant fire does is it isolates strategically certain areas of the forest and burns them in very contained ways to reduce the amount of fuel and to reduce the scope that the fire could grow out of control if there was an unplanned fire. So that's today's topic. If you are interested in finding out more about wildfires, how you can chart a course when you're shopping for houses, you can always reach out to me. My email and my brokerage's email are linked in the description. And if you need any additional advice, I have access to many insurance brokers that I can connect you to. This is Deniz, founder and CEO of Atlassa, data-driven real estate brokerage. And I hope you have a fantastic day.